Well, our stock market has just opened. It is off to a quiet start to end the week. Our business editor, Ross Greenwood, are you relieved by that?
Oh, yeah, it's been a bit nuts the whole week, right? So therefore, a quiet day is always a good day. No, so it is pretty quiet going out there. But the one story that's kind of kicking out there, it's all about the automotive industry at the moment. Elon Musk is pretty much in the news consistently these days, and there's one of the big things that's happened overnight, and that is that sales have boomed to record levels of Teslas. But it's not the reality, because even though there was a 7.4% increase in the number of Teslas sold, nearly 500,000 Teslas sold in America in the quarter leading into the end of September, the reality is quite different to that. And you've got to have a look at the share price to see exactly what's taken place. So overnight, the Tesla share price has fallen by 5.1%, and the Tesla share price has been under pressure for quite some time, because Tesla sales have fallen, not only because of his association with Doge, but also some competition that's come into America. Australia's the same thing with Chinese vehicles, cheaper Chinese vehicles really flooding these markets. And this is part of the reason why, of course, there are tariffs in America to try and really provide some buffer to that. But the other attitude about this is also in the United States, there was the lifting of incredible subsidies for electric vehicles there. Right. So in the US, there was a $7,500 subsidy which has come to an end. So say, for example, you would take even the top line Model X there, which is nearly $85,000 US dollars. $7,500 is a pretty big chunk to that. So people have basically bought up these vehicles in advance of that subsidy coming to an end. And that's the reason why Tesla vehicles basically took off during the past month or so.
Interesting. So there's a lot of competition in the market as well. Yeah. There was this kind of political campaign against him when he was heading up Doge.
There was.
And Tesla shares fell dramatically. But has that largely been made up, but it still kind of, bounces around?
Not really, but he's got a lot to basically play as well, because next month there's going to be a vote on his pay deal. Remember, you and I were talking yesterday about they're saying his net worth is now sort of $500 billion US dollars. Well, the interesting thing about this is he's got literally $1 trillion on the line to get this right. Wow. So this is the future pay packet for him over the next decade to keep him interested in Tesla. It's for $1 trillion US potentially. Now, this is if he can get the current value of Tesla, which is $1.5 trillion, the most valuable company on the stock market anywhere in the world. If he can get that to rise to $8.5 trillion, he gets an extra 12% of the Tesla shares. And as a result, that is valued at $1 trillion US dollars. Right. But he wants to pivot, because the next generation of Teslas he wants to build basically don't have steering wheels. He's going all in on autonomous vehicles and effectively believes that the future is us not driving.
Wow.
And this is going to be interesting to see just where this goes to, not just here in Australia, but around the world, whether this technology can genuinely change the way in which we are transported. And it would revolutionise things. But again, that's the thinking that has brought Elon Musk to this point anyway.
It's so extraordinary, isn't it? Because Waymo do this. If you've been to San Francisco, you would have seen a Waymo as well. But there was a case in America where a Waymo did an illegal U-turn. It was pulled over by police. The car's programmed to be law-abiding, but it did an illegal U-turn. Yeah. But the police officer had... How do you give a Waymo a ticket?
Well, what do you do? Who do you give it to when you have an accident? Who is at fault? This is part of the issue for insurance, not just in America, but every different jurisdiction, including Australia, is going to have to work this out as well. So it's going to be really fascinating.
Just quickly, is Tesla still most popular in the US? Is that where Elon makes all this money, or is it still with exports?
Yeah, no, it's still in the United States because it's the biggest market for those cars, and also they've got the tariffs that make the Chinese companies more expensive. So that's the reason why.
So Trump has lifted this subsidy, but he's also got a bit of a protection around
He does indeed. Tell you another good story that's kicking around the place today, and this is here in the local car market. So what's happened is that George Pilates, people know George Pilates because he's the chairman of the Sydney Roosters, right? So George Pilates also is... Oh, sorry.
Nick Pilates.
Nick Pilates. Yeah. God, I'm going mad. Anyway, Nick Pilates, of course.
Lucky you got me.
Oh, I am so close, actually. That's really helpful. Anyway, so Nick Pilates, here he is, right, with the Roosters. Everybody knows him. But he started his life with City Ford, and this is where the sponsorships all started out for the Roosters. And he's just built this thing. So Eagers, he owns the majority of this. just done a deal to buy $1 billion investment in a Canadian auto distributor, one of the biggest. So he is massive. So here's the Eagers share price. They've just raised money to be able to do this. Share price is up by 6.5%. So you'd have to say that Nick is probably going to have a very good lunch somewhere today off the back of what's happening here. But that is a massive deal. There's the Eagers share price that he owns the majority of the shares in over the past year, up 178%. So, as I say, it has been astonishing for an industry that many people think is basically falling apart because of electric vehicles and everything. There's Eagers, basically has been shot the lights out over the past year. But we know also that a lot of people in that automotive industry, the real way they make their money is out of the property. Yeah. It's the dirt that those dealerships are on that is absolutely the gold in those businesses.
Yeah, he'll be looking at a good vintage today.
There you go, no doubt.
What's the market doing more generally?
The market, let's have a quick look at that, shall we? And we can see up in the corner of the screen, it started out reasonably well, up almost 1/3%. The ASX 200, have a look at the Aussie dollar now. Where was that? Sitting around 66 cents earlier today. I think it probably is sitting there now, pretty much right on, bang, 66 US cents.
A bit lower than yesterday. It felt better when there was like 2 6s there.
You reckon?
Yeah, a little bit. It was up near
much of a difference,
6, 7. No, it doesn't.
Not much in the whole scheme of things.
It's psychological.
That's it.
Ross, thank you.
Quite okay.